Welcome to the Into the Light Durham Spotlight podcast in collaboration with students from Durham Sixth Form Centre. I am Alex Guy.
And I'm Charlie Liddell, local poet, and today we are joined by Lewis Hobson, also known as Durham Spray Paints. Lewis, you are a local artist. Tell us a bit more about your work.
So basically, I primarily do like large-scale mural art, so like sides of buildings, things like that. I guess I've also done like exhibitions, documentaries, and a few different sort of things that I'm expanding into and trying different mediums. But my background's in like graffiti and street art, and things like that. Yeah.
And so one of your sort of short films a couple of years ago was about the Durham Wasps, the local ice hockey team. How was that to film and sort of finding out about our sort of history as a county?
Yeah. So it was about Durham ice rink, but the Wasps were like the sort of like Manchester United of ice hockey at that time. So there's a lot of really intense feeling about them because they were based in the city centre. We had a huge ice rink here. You know, we were kind of like world renowned. So no one had really done a project on that, either like sort of gathering stories or looking at the memorabilia, because you know, you think like a football team, there's like shirts and stuff like that. With ice hockey there was like scarves and banners, and so there's loads of really interesting like sort of bits and bobs from that era, close in like early 90s. So yeah, there was loads of stuff to get into, and then we filmed a documentary from like the start of the project, and we're at Durham Sixth Form Centre now recording this.
Yeah.
We did an exhibition as part of me being an artist in residence here, in the Dead Dog Gallery, which is just over the way. So yeah, it was an incredible project, and yeah, funded by Into the Light as well. Yeah.
How did you get into spray painting then?
Just doing graffiti illegally. No, so when I was a kid, I was like really fascinated by kind of like street art and all the different stuff I was seeing, you know, as I sort of went around, and yeah, just started spray painting when I was like 13, and like was into sort of graffiti and the kind of things people don't necessarily like or understand as much as like the murals that I do now. And then just over 6 years ago, I started doing things that like were, I guess, more kind of targeted to improve the areas and be like pro-social rather than like anti-social. So it's been a really nice transition for me to sort of be able to share my art with people in the public, and yeah.
So it's about, if you throw a stone in one direction, you're more than likely to see sort of one of your murals. They're sort of scattered all over Durham. But if you had to sort of pick maybe a favourite one, something that means a bit more to you especially, what would that be?
So I guess one of the ones that people tend to like know about is in Sacriston. There's a big like black and white tiger, which was like probably like my third mural that I did. So you know, it's like a whole gable end of a house, and it was just really good for me. It was like taking a lot of years of, you know, I'd been doing like graffiti and street art sort of privately for my own self for, you know, nearly like 15 years before that. So then to be doing like art for someone, bringing like a tiger to Sacriston was just like really interesting. And people loved it. Like, got the police called on me, and they showed up and they were really canny, and you know, and then I got the council called on me and they showed up and they were really nice, and then, you know, that was the only negativity I had after that. Everyone was just really chuffed to get a piece of art there, and I think that really just sort of cemented that, you know, I can paint big, I can do these things that I want to do, and I can bring something really interesting to a space like a gable end that was just blank. So, you know, that was huge, and it's still there, and like, you know, there's kids who've grown up with that now, and like there's one who I met her and a kid when I was just painting it, and she like goes past and presses a tiger's nose every day still on the way to school. So, you know, stuff like that where you're really linked in with the community is just, you know, it's a dead nice feeling. Like.
Is that important for you then, to like be linked in with the community?
For sure, yeah. I mean, like a lot of people sort of have a similar skill set to what I do in terms of like just painting. You know, I'm not like a classically trained artist. I came to the Sixth Form Centre as a student, but I didn't do art. But I'm really good with spray paint, and I guess the other thing that I'm really interested in, rather than like sort of art history or anything like that, is just like community and sort of how we can use like sort of the skills that I have for painting to like bring people together, change areas, and so that's kind of led on to expanding my practice to do things like the ice rink exhibition, which was primarily about bringing people together who hadn't been in the same room in years, you know, and like use the skills that I have, like chatting to people, you know. I'm always in the streets, just getting the sort of crack from people. So yeah, it's just, people are like the most important thing. It's like the murals are kind of just a way of getting out there and getting stuck in, you know.
And the people are really sort of grateful for it, because there's sort of a lot of quite low-income towns. You've sort of, I don't want to sort of be offensive to these towns, but you've really sort of made them a bit more aesthetically pleasing. You've really sort of jazzed up the place with some of the murals, and you speak to a lot of people and they're always sort of really positive. You talked a bit before about the police and the council getting involved. Do you have any other sort of difficulties with them in the past, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess like just to like the sort of start of that, like sort of jazzing up the areas, like one of the other projects, which is like a community project that I managed like in collaboration with the council, is taking the skate parks, which, you know, when I first started doing graffiti, I was painting on the backs of these skate ramps, because it was kind of like a grey area where you didn't really get in trouble, but you could paint and people weren't as bothered. But I was still doing that knowing that if the police came, I'd run away, even though it was accepted there. But I got in touch with the council and said, look, people are painting these ramps, can we make this an actual legal safe space so people aren't looking over the shoulder and the quality of the work increases? So we've been doing that like for a couple of years now. We've been sorting these sites out where there was some like really weird graffiti and like, you know, just it's places where kids play. So yeah, loads of artists like donating the time and putting work in, and like local artists getting a space in their community to keep painting. So yeah, that's one of the things that's been really nice. But yeah, I still sometimes get a bit of bother when I'm painting at these places, you know. And it's Durham's really interesting because it's very small. You know, there's not that like street art scene. So in some ways, it's nice because people are interacting with it the first time. So you can sort of really impact people's perceptions of like alternative sort of art like that. But sometimes people come at you with preconceived notions what they're about, and but I'm always up for like, I'm up for a chat, you know. I'm up to like for someone to be really angry at me, like that's my job, is to be there and be sort of open to that. So yeah, I'm always there for it. So yeah, still get like some bother, but you know, it's like it's all part of it. It's better to engage with someone who's like angry and bring them down to an understanding level than someone who's just like, oh great, you know. I kind of prefer the bit of a challenge. You know?
Is it your aim then to sort of like put stuff back into the community to sort of, like you said, like change people's not perception but like perception of street art to make it appear something beautiful?
In some ways, I guess primarily I focus on like the individual artists and their perceptions of self and their perceptions of their role in their communities. So like, because that's what I am basically. So it can be really hard. So you paint a tiger in Sacriston. I didn't paint the tiger thinking, oh, this is going to be like, you know, it's not related to Sacriston. It's just,
you don't get many tigers in
Durham. Yeah. And but you know, instead of being like, what's this for? People were like, oh great, a tiger. You know, so you can't predict how people are going to interact with anything you do basically, as long as you do it with good intentions. So I try and focus on like development of artists and building that framework for people to have a step up to. So you know, there's people we work with who are doing like graffiti and stuff and kind of like might be at risk of going down a different path, and then I'm like, right, come and help me do this job for this day. Come and we're going into a gallery, we're doing this, and you know, so it's kind of about having one foot over here doing this, so you're engaging with this group of people, but then also being able to come to a room like this, you know, sit down and, you know, I think being a middle person between different communities is kind of like what's more interesting rather than the kind of like paintings themselves, if that makes sense.
You see quite a lot about like around Durham of just sort of tagging. So would it be your sort of dream to sort of give these young people another outlet to use like their spray paints for something else instead of like tagging and causing a bit of bother with it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like graffiti's a constant challenge in all sorts of communities, you know, and like it's something that I like know a lot about. So I guess that's why I'm like spend a lot of time dedicated to like sort of like say changing perceptions, creating like these legal spaces. But like I think like fundamentally it's just people doing it, you know, and like I'm interested in like the root cause of that, and you know, so the stuff I do with like community and Durham Ice Rink, that's kind of related in a way, because like kids doing graffiti would probably be in a hockey team. You know, they had like I think it was like 12 different teams.
Yeah.
Like one of the first women's team in ice hockey, and like, you know, that these things feel super related because like when I was talking to people at ice rink, they were like, everyone was there, you knew everyone. There wasn't like that kind of bother, because everyone had their place and everyone just sort of like got tuck under someone's wing. So I'm like, there's no ice rink anymore. What can we do to build something that's going to be like a place for people to like mentor each other?
I really like that, yeah. And just sort of going back to some of the short films you were doing, with the sort of ice rink short film, you met Torvald Dean, you had all these great sort of opportunities, the art gallery. Have you got any other aspirations to make other films in the future?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that came up, so the ice rink was based on like the riverside just across from the sixth form centre, and that used to be kind of like a really interesting area for loads of different reasons in the sort of Durham of the past, like sort of the 80s. But one of the other things that was there that was a huge thing was Durham Carpet Factory. So it's like this really massive employer in Durham, and was like making carpets for places like Houses of Parliament, you know, like Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. So there were people like designing and making carpets, and like, you know, serious sort of artists doing stuff and employing people in the warehouses and on the looms and stuff. And it was, you know, they were creating some really beautiful things. It was all like made here in Durham, and the business is like still running today, but kind of has changed hands. And so that's another project that I'm at the minute like sort of applying for funding for, and sort of looking to get off the ground, because the riverside itself I think is a really interesting example of how Durham has changed, and like what we can do to start building community. And one of the things is looking back and saying like, right, what worked, what did we have, what did that mean, and like what could something in the future look like.
Can we fill that sort of vacuum?
Yeah, and like, you know, it could be like murals are just like a really easy way to do that, you know. So like I do a lot of murals and do a lot of community projects, but it's really great being able to have access to like film and people who have expertise in that way, because you can just reach a different audience. And then like I say, there's the crossover of projects. So something like the Carpet Factory, we want to do like we do want to do murals, but we want to bring in other artists and kind of start building up the sort of fabric of like really grassroots. How can someone who thinks of themselves as an artist, or someone who doesn't even think of themselves as an artist, start getting involved and thinking about community?
It's like a cross-platform in a way of like all these different sort of artists and creatives coming together to do this thing.
Yeah, for sure, and that's what I'm trying to like make myself, basically, like just, you know, someone who can connect people up and like think up projects, you know, Carpet Factory. But again, it's not really like the actual Carpet Factory, it's just carpets. Like it's more about the people, and it's about connecting people, and it's about like sort of our creative responses to that, and how we can use that to kind of be like, all right, this is what Durham needs, this is what's missing from Durham. And yeah, sometimes like the ice rink just unearths like really interesting questions about uses of space and like lack of this and that and what we need, you know.
It's really important to sort of remember our culture and
And
history
our roots
as well.
and where we've come from and stuff.
Because I hadn't really ever heard of Durham having an ice rink until I saw your exhibition. And then the Carpet Factory as well.
Where did that idea come from to explore the ice rink further?
Yeah, good question, yeah. So basically, like, I was in town with my mum, and she like met someone from the ice rink, and she was just like smiling and like, oh wow, you know, good to see you and that. And I was just like, who is that? You know, where, you know, who's this guy? And she would just meet people from the ice rink, and you could just see that bond there. And I was just like, what is this? Because we don't have anything like this. And yeah, the ice rink was just like a huge family thing, and it just fascinated me that like I've kind of always felt like something like that was missing from Durham.
Mm-hmm.
Places to like congregate and to like meet people, and these like spaces where, you know, it's like great, like you pay an entry, but you know there's loads of other things around it that are like useful, and yeah, just really curious. That's it. Yeah.
And what did you do when you were artist in residence here? How did their dog?
Yeah, so because like my specialty is like spray painting, not curating a museum.
Well, you did a pretty good job, so you did yourself a disservice.
Oh, honestly, well, so I guess yeah, that was one interesting part of it. Was like I think so. I did spray painting with the students, and sort of there was a few people who I'm always looking for the people who are like really honed in on spray paint and are like really really curious, because I know that if I give them just a bit of my sort of knowledge, it'll just get them going, and you know, like so. There's a couple of people who I really sort of connected with and was able to like help a little bit. So it was just generally advising on like spray painting, street arty bits and bobs and things like that. But then yeah, I think they were expecting me to do like a street art exhibition, because it's cool and it's, you know, people like street art and murals and stuff. But then I was like, oh, I want to do an ice rink thing, and you know, really fair play to them. They were like, yeah, let's do it. So and the team at the gallery just propped me up and helped me achieve that huge dream, which was like such a big thing for me, because you know I can see someone being like, just stick to spray paint, you know, just stick to what you know. But you know, the art department and the people who like handle the gallery stuff just gave me all the tips and the stuff and said, oh, we'll do this, and you know, so that's the sort of stuff I love, like, you know, being able to come in here as an artist in residence and give people my expertise, which I give really freely, and to me like spray painting is easy, and you know I can just sort of do it, but then to get all that as well from the gallery stuff, and now like I've got a couple more exhibitions under my belt, so it feels really good. So yeah, it was awesome. It was really intense. The ice rink stuff was really really intense, because it was like people in the gallery crying and like,
Wow.
Oh, honestly, like just, yeah, too many stories, but yeah, it was a lot emotionally.
Another sort of story I remember, I don't know if you can feel the chemistry at the listeners at home. Me and Lewis are relatives of each other. I remember I was told a story about when you were trying to collect memorabilia for the exhibition, and you were really looking for this trophy in particular, and it was just in someone's garage.
Yeah, that was yeah. So basically, the ice rink got like demolished under like quite sort of spooky circumstances, and you know it was a lot of sort of bad sentiment towards the end, because the team got sold to like Newcastle United as like kind of this all-star team, because they were absolutely mint, you know, at that. So the team got sold, the ice rink got sold, and so basically no one knew where a lot of the really important like historic things went from the ice rink, including this massive trophy cabinet, which is like, you know, they had hundreds of trophies because they were just so successful. And I was reaching out to people asking about like memorabilia, and everyone was like, oh, I'd love to know where these trophies are. You know, it's been plagued.
Bit of a mystery, yeah.
Yeah, and people genuinely like really concerned about it, like, because there's a lot of kind of like open wounds like that, where it's like, I never got the answer to what happened here, you know, I never saw this person again, this and that. And then, yeah, found the trophies, they were just in someone's garage.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and we were able to display them, and like say, like, people were crying, it was a lot, yeah, it was quite a lot.
That's so cool though, because you've got like a real sense of the time alongside your work, and it would have made like such a big, massive impact on the exhibition as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the exhibition was great without the trophies, but like being able to have that as like the story, you know, and then my whole thing was like, they need to have a place somewhere, and they need to, because people want them displayed, you know, because there's not really any evidence of like the ice rink being given it, and I guess like the community primarily given that sort of like precedence in Durham, like you kind of wouldn't know there was an ice rink here, and I think for someone who had grown up there, because it opened in like the 40s, do you know what I mean, during the war, someone's grown up, they've had it the whole life, and now they're old and they're like, that's my history,
Mhm.
and it's not anywhere.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be able to give people that, but like, yeah, I think, you know, I wanted to do a big mural in the city centre. That was like kind of the final thing of the project, but I just couldn't get it away. Like,
I never say never.
well, I'm up for it. Yeah, yeah. It's just, you know, I really wanted it to be like a big sort of reminder of the project, and just so people knew that it's not just like football and mining. And also there's a pathway if you're interested in learning about something. I've never done exhibitions or museum stuff before, and I just asked loads of people for help and got in, and then there's a documentary and an exhibition, you know, so someone else might be interested in something else obscure, some obscure history, and then it just means there's more sort of people-powered cultural stuff in Durham going on that's outside of the normal scope of what is usually put in the museums. Yeah.
And is that sort of what you want to like aim to do in future work, is to find those obscure events and to give those events this place to shine in culture that might have been forgotten in our history, sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So one of the other things we did, like through Into the Light, was like a pop-up shop in Durham where we did like a little exhibition, and some of it was like catered towards doing the ice rink stuff and just gathering like a few little more bits for the documentary, but then the other half I gave over to like the skateboarders. So it was amazing. Like we had like a tower of skateboards. You know, there's like 100 skateboards. Awesome. We have a pro skater in Durham, Jimmy Boys, who's like this amazing guy, and he's kept every skateboard he's ever skated, and he started a long time ago, like decades ago. So he had a pile of skateboards, you know, taller than me, and we had like the history of skateboarding in Durham, like street skating, because on the riverside again there used to be like an abandoned warehouse where the skaters kind of took over. So we had pictures of that, and you know, we were exploring this really tiny niche, and it was the first time they'd ever worked with a museum. It was the first time a lot of them had been ever commissioned to do something artistic, even though they like thought of themselves as artists for a long time. You know, we had like photographers, we had like say skateboarders, and yeah, so that was just another sort of thing that was really great. So we had this shop, and then we were just given loads of trust to do something, and it just brought so many people in, and yeah, just another different community with like a little niche, and oh yeah, I just love it. Yeah, good.
I imagine people sort of felt seen though, and as you said, it was a lot of people's first time with exhibitions and things. You've really sort of helped start up a lot of young people's careers, and so I hope you can sort of keep doing this work, especially with the Carpet Factory film. Just sort of push a bit more for culture. And so going back to a lot of the sort of spray paints you do, and you were talking about in your youth how you were sort of really interested in the skate parks. What else could sort of inspire young people to do with graffiti and spray paints?
Like as in, well, I mean, it's weird because when I was growing up, there was no big murals in Durham really. There was like some kind of oldish murals that had been there a while, but like spray paint and murals are a lot more understood, a lot more accessible, and like it's pretty cool just to imagine the amount of murals I've done, which is just like hundreds now. Some kid just like growing up, and then you know, if I grew up and then there was like a project where you had places in your community to go and paint legally, if there was like loads of big murals everywhere, and there was like a mural festival which I organised, you know, I'm just like, oh,
mural festival.
Yeah.
To tell us a bit more about this.
Oh,
this is news to me.
Yeah. So in Spennymoor, so it's like where I live, put on a mural festival, and it was a couple of years running. We just like brought loads of artists in and stuff like that, and it was really nice. Like did a lot of open workshops. Like everything's free. That's one of the other kind of like tenets of the work I do. You know, everything's just like free to people to come in. It's never like a charge.
Yeah.
So met a lot of people through that, and like one artist one year came along and was like, oh, I'm really interested in getting into this, and so I gave him a box of spray paint. I was like, here you go,
nice.
Get stuck in, give us a shout if you need any help, and he did, and next year he came back and did a mural. So there's just loads of stuff like that, you know, just like and he's like he's doing all sorts of things, doing oil paints now, and yeah, so loads of stuff like that. I met like other creatives there, and you know, gone on to collaborate loads. So just another project where it's like the murals, great, but it's just about people and connections and that. So
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Well, I think that's all
I
the
think
time we
that's- yeah.
have for now. But thank you for coming on the show, Lewis.
Thank
It's been an
you.
absolute pleasure having you. And keep doing all the good work you do. And I'll probably see a new mural in the next couple of weeks.
yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Into the Light is a place-based partnership with organisations across County Durham. It's funded by Arts Council England, Durham County Council, Durham University and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. The Spotlight podcast is produced in partnership with Durham Sixth Form Centre.